On this lovely day, my friend who introduced me to Adventure Time and I got a little trashy, and we're going to list our top 10 episodes that we have not previously discussed with one another. Okay, do you want me to start with my 10 or do you want
Start with your 10. Start with your 10. I'm curious.
It was switching out a lot, but I ended up landing on season 10, episode 5, 17.
Wait, Finn, I think he's plotting something.
It's fine, I'm 17, I've hit my stride.
So this was his 17th birthday.
Okay, I do remember.
This is when Uncle Gumbald came in and kind of had some evils with
Green
Finn.
Knight is there.
Yes, Green Knight.
Yeah.
I think it was that moment in the series where you look at Finn and you think, when did you grow up this much? So it makes me a little emotional. It had a really good balance of funny lines and serious lines.
How do you like them coconuts?
I hate them coconuts. It's my birthday!
I know. It's my
birthday, too.
I think the icing on the cake, pun intended, is when Ice King comes out in the Finn cake. I forgot about that. And he comes out dressed like Flame Princess singing Happy Birthday. And I lose my shit because at this point, Finn had gotten his ass beaten and he had a puke bucket in front of him. And he was puking into the puke bucket and everyone was singing Happy Birthday to him. Mm-hmm. And he looked miserable because the person he thought he murdered came back. Everything's going to shit. He's just surrounded by a bunch of banana guards.
Princess, is that strange?
Yes!
I did good.
Every part of the banana guard being in an episode is the best part of the episode.
What is your 10?
Interesting. So you went with season 10.
I did.
Which is the finale season.
The finale season.
And I went with season 1. The beginning of the show. So season 1, episode 18, Dungeon.
Frank the Human Boy.
How did you almost know my name?
Which is a nostalgia pick for me. I loved this episode as a child, and when we rewatched it, I loved it again. Bubblegum doesn't want them to... makes them put some signs that says they're not allowed to go into this cave because it's really dangerous. But Finn is like, I have to prove myself, and he jumps into the cave. And he needs to prove himself not only to Bubblegum, but also to Jake, that he doesn't need him. And along the way, he realizes, oh, I do need Jake. He's great. But the piece de resistance is named Demon Cat, but I like to call Probability Cat. I love this episode 100% only because of this cat, who was like,
I know exactly where you might be, Jim.
I live for this cat, and his like, there's a 40% chance that you're behind this pillar.
That was a great Probability Cat impression.
I agree. So this episode isn't fantastic. It definitely has like a weaker plot, but there's some fantastic characters in it.
So my number 9 is Season 3, Episode 17, Thank You. So the reason I chose that was because I think it was a unique take on being a silent short without really being a silent short. 1, their lands aren't really vibing. 2, physically, they're not really meant to touch each other. I think it's a beautiful story. The B plot is Finn, Jake, and Ice King fighting each other over sandwiches. I think the Ice King was beaten up for his sandwiches, and they were sitting on top of him, and he couldn't eat the sandwiches, and he was asking them to give him a piece of the sandwich. And they see the Ice Golem and the Fire Puppy kind of just chill there, and Ice King says,
maybe we could all learn a thing or two from those sandwiches. Thank you.
That's the episode title.
My 9 is All the Little People. Season 5, episode 5.
Ah! What the ball, man?
Number 1, I didn't remember how Finn got the little people, and it's from Magic Man. He just, like, attaches them to Finn, and Finn's like, oh, what's this little satchel full of tiny humans? I don't know why he did it. Maybe for the chaos. He gets with Lady Rainicorn, which prompts Jake to leave, which really spirals Finn. I mean, he's left alone for, I think, 3 weeks to play with these living dolls.
I hate this episode. I hate it.
It's horrifying. I don't know if you ever noticed, but there's also a throuple that happens among these dolls. Lollipop Girl, Abracadaniel, and Choose Goose. Probably the most consistent relationship among the little people.
Okay.
He also makes Fire Princess and Bubblegum fight over him, and little Bubblegum gets jacked because of her breakup. And so also in the episode, The Silent King it's called, where the goblin spanks all of them.
Spankies.
And Turtle Princess is spanking Zergiot. So a fun little twist on an older episode.
That's a fun fact.
I love this episode purely for the chaos, for the spiral that Finn has. I don't even know what you call it. Madness?
Finn rarely feels unhinged, so the episodes in which the writers make Finn unfinged, if you will. Unfinged. They do a good job. Too good.
It's alarming. There's a reason why it's a scary episode, and it's because a 14-year-old boy is making dolls make out with each other. Who are his friends? These are his companions. Your brother, you're literally the person you were raised with. You're making out with his wife. Yes, it's horrifying. Yes, it's great.
My number 8 is Walnuts and Rain, Season 6, Episode 31.
Sometimes walnuts would fall into the hole, and sometimes rain. And I guess that was enough.
The bullet points that I had written down for why this episode is a fucking masterpiece. 1, Bill.
I'm 7718. See, I carved it in the floor when I first got down here so I wouldn't forget.
And it's upside down, it's the word Bill.
Oh my god. Oh my god. I did not realize that the first time we watched that. I don't think I realized that the third time we watched that.
But I call him the Solitaire Bear, because he likes solitaire. I really like that episode because they divide a lot of what Finn is doing and Jake is doing, and it feels like two separate stories, but they come together in a physical sense because, yes, the whole time Jake is falling with the Solitaire Bear, who has been there for years, for all we know, and it's down the vent into the place with the giant food kingdom, or the medium-sized food kingdom, I forget what it's called. I also really love Finn's dumb plan to escape, and he's showing, like, it work out in his head, and then it actually works, where he spits food in their mouth and they just untie him.
Alright, number 8, Season 2, Episode 14, The Silent King.
Flip this table!
No one can tell me no!
It is a weirdly kinky episode about goblins spanking each other and honestly wanting to be spanked. Zerkiat wants to spank the goblins. The goblins? They're like, no, Finn, don't spank us, King Finn. They put out their bums. They want to be spanked. Some highlights for me are the birthing pit. That goblin squire being like, let me chew your food, Finn. He regurgitates the Teletubby pink slime.
Sexy.
Yeah. It's not a poetic episode. It's not relevant to the plot. Every time I watch it, I enjoy it. The Goblin Kingdom is chaotic.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Are you gonna know it?
Say it anyway.
Would you fuck Zerkiat?
No, I don't think I would fuck Zerkiat.
He's your type.
No, he's not.
He's chaotic, and he just looks like a sad boy a little bit.
No, he doesn't. He's unhinged in not a hot villain way, but in a, I don't know, like, he's just whiny, you know?
Yeah.
Like, he lacks to me what Michaela's type is, which is unhinged, but, like, tormented.
He's not tormented enough.
He's not tormented.
He spanks for spanking's sake.
He spanks for spanking. He spanked somebody mid-proposal. But I think maybe they should put Zerkiat back in power. They like the spankings, is all I'm saying.
Okay, so my number 7, Season 2, Episode 21, Belly of the Beast.
Apparently we're not in a cave.
We're not in a cave.
We're in a monster's belly!
The one where the bears are in the stomach of the beast, when Cubby aggressively dances towards them, is like, I hear you know we're in the belly of a beast. And he's just,
I gotta keep dancing or they'll suspect me.
I'm like, are you bothering these young men?
No, I wasn't, I swear. I'm dancing, see?
Also, Party Pet, the hipster bear,
Yes.
being the most unhinged motherfucker in this entire show. The karaoke machine scenes, when they're singing about all their food being dead. It's a really dumb episode, and I just find it fun to watch. There's not much to it.
Truly a beautiful resolution is we'll just use lasers.
So it's symbiotic.
Yeah, it is symbiotic.
What's your 7?
My 7 is High Strangeness. Season 8, Episode 17.
Do you all have any guns?
Nope.
Tree Trunks, she's defending her alien children against Bubblegum, sending out spaceships of bubblegum people to find a viable colony. Mr. Pig in this episode, you realize, deserves more because Tree Trunks is not only a cheating whore, but she expects him to have a threesome with her and her alien husband. That is 100% to be inferred.
Do you think it happened?
I do. Her making them hold hands, there's only one conclusion, in which that there was a threesome, in which Mr. Pig definitely did not want to be a part of. Did he anyway? Of course. He loved Tree Trunks.
Do you think he was sitting in the corner of the bed as Tree Trunks fucked the alien and was just kind of like, damn, I gotta reconsider? They stay happily married through the rest of the series, but...
No, I do. I think it was one where she, like, kind of made them kiss for a while, and then he was like, oh, I guess maybe I can do this, but then ultimately was on the edge of the bed and was like, I don't think this is what I thought it was gonna be.
We're talking a lot about this animated pig and elephant's, like, sex lives.
I don't think that's my fault. They introduced that. They 100% they're the one who created the conversation. I'm just joining in on it. The real highlight for me is Tree Trunks creating a picket sign with the word fascist in glitter as she protests bubblegum. True. It's factual. What a boss bitch move of Tree Trunks. And then Tree Trunks being coerced into the conspiracy group of Starchies.
I forgot about that.
Right?
Shit.
She sits on the podium and says probably the most iconic line.
Do you all have any guns?
It shows her commitment to the cause. Whereas, Starchy's a coward. She wants to talk. He wants to complain about bubblegum. But is there any action? No. Not until Tree Trunks.
As much as we shit on Tree Trunks, she does genuinely work towards a revolution. Unfortunately, this world is fictional and I love bubblegum.
Yo, 100%. But, I understand why Tree Trunks could be offended, could feel like she's been wronged. Especially when her alien children are growing bubblegum parasites? Bubblegum appendages?
Bubble sites.
Bubble sites. I could see where she wants to revolt.
So going into number 6, you're gonna start seeing how much of a simp I am for Marceline the Vampire Queen. Number 6 for me is season 4, episode 25, I Remember You.
You know, I kind of like being tied up in these cords. Kind of freaky.
It turns out, based on my list, that I'm a pretty big Marceline simp too. I'm gonna be honest, going forward, it's pretty much all Marceline bubblegum, I want you to know.
So for reasons I enjoyed Remember You, I had talked earlier about how I think Adventure Time is really good at balancing silly and heavy. And I think this episode is like the highlight of that. So it starts off looking really goofy with Ice King singing,
Gunter, why did you goont my fry?
I think we had talked about the line where Jake says,
Your constant harassment of the female gender makes me sick.
Fantastic. One of Jake's best lines.
Fun fact though, when I was rewatching my top 10 episodes to order them, it's subtitled when he says that in brackets as Batman.
Really?
So he's saying it as Batman.
As Batman. Is that a Batman quote? Is Jake directly quoting Batman in their universe?
I have more loyalty to Adventure Time than DC, so I'm gonna say Batman stole it from Jake.
That seems fair.
Other parts of this episode I really like. I love that it has 3 of the most bangery bangers of all time. So it starts with Ice King singing that song. At one point, he's like,
Wildberry Princess could be better.
And I lose my shit. Because, yeah, he's right. And then also it has obviously the 2 better songs, which are I Remember You and what's the other song? Oh, Nuts, when she's like, you're nuts. Despite how emotional the song is, because this really introduces one of the most prevalent plot points, which is the whole Simon and Marceline backstory. The ending is the first introduction. What's the word? This would be the first. His name's not Dumbo. What's that little bear called? I'm a mess right now.
What?
What's the bear called?
Party Bear Pat?
No!
Hambo.
Hambo. It's the. Fuck, just give me a moment. It's the first chronological introduction of Hambo the fucking bear. And guess the fuck what, Michaela? He's a red at one point, which means he's so crusty that over time he became gray.
Let me ask you, I don't think you can judge too much. He's 1,000 years old. I
want
to see what you look like at 1,000 years old. My number 6, season 3, episode 10, What Was Missing?
Oh, you don't like that? Or do you just not like me?
I think we mentioned this once as America's favorite, the I'm Just Your Problem episode.
Sorry, I'm not made of sugar. Am I not sweet enough for you?
There is the line that we joke about a lot, which is the type of line.
I'll get your kid back, toy!
It's also the t-shirt's first appearance. And the t-shirt plays such an iconic role in the show, and even in Distant Lands, so it's fun to see its first canonical appearance in the show. The Door Lord steals all of their belongings, and you think Marceline's here because he stole one of her belongings. But you find out Marceline didn't lose anything. She just wanted to hang out with Bubblegum and the rest of her pals.
So my number 5 pick, season 4, episode 8, Goliad. Girl!
That's my number 5 pick.
I'm not gonna live forever, Finn. I would if I could.
We're on the same
We are in
wavelength.
sync.
Oh my god.
Soulmates. Okay. Goliad is such a number 5 pick.
Goliad is a number 5 pick, I agree.
Oh, why don't you start us off this time then?
Okay, I will. Goliad, an icon. We see Bubblegum in her peak chaotic form, which is, I'm going to experiment and create a new candy creature. I really enjoy, the flashback to her creating Goliad, which is her throwing Cinnamon Bun into the mix and him climbing out. Ooh, the quote. Now, I'm gonna be honest with you, I wrote down this quote. I don't remember what was it in reference to. I just have the quote. The quote is, Jake, don't swallow. I don't remember. Oh, wait. I remember. What? Hold on. Okay. So, Goliad learns her mind control powers. And she telekinetically carries the candy people and shoves them in Jake's mouth and eye sockets. And Finn goes, Jake, don't swallow.
Jake, don't swallow!
When you said it, because I remember that now, but when you said it to me, I thought Jake was saying it in the third person, like, Jake, don't swallow.
I think this episode's great. It really, here's the thing, to get Lit Major deep, it is a metaphor.
Yes! I put metaphor!
Yes. It's a metaphor. And it shows the relationship from Goliad to Princess Bubblegum and Stormo to Finn.
Bitch!
Right?
I have her written down like a fucking essay.
Goliad is prone to being a dictator, and Stormo is the hero. Like, that it is in their nature, that whether or not, whoever taught Goliad to be a leader, Goliad was always going to be who Goliad was going to be because she was made from bubblegum. And Stormo was always going to be the hero who sacrifices himself because he's made from Finn.
I wrote down that Bubblegum had noted Stormo sacrificed himself, which was funny considering Stormo was made for the sole purpose of being in eternal psychic battle with Goliad. That shows how she thinks people should constantly do her bidding and it's of their own volition. Another part I really liked was when Bubblegum had talked about how, the bee and the flower need each other for pollination. It's symbiotic. That's how a ruler should be with his people. And Goliad just crushed the bee and was like,
If getting pollen hurt or kill flower, bee would not care. Bee is stronger than flower.
Because, Goliad was Peppa Pig or whatever. But I lost my shit because Goliad was terrifying. And I truly think that this episode, even if it's about Goliad, says the most about Princess Bubblegum. She used her DNA in Goliad and used Finn's DNA for Stormo.
What I love about this is that, yes, she used Finn's DNA, but I like how it highlights that she's always plotting, right? Because when she takes Finn's DNA, she's just like, all it takes is some DNA, and plucks a hair from him.
That's a great point because she did take his DNA before Goliad went Goliad.
Yeah. She's always thinking, what's the worst case scenario, and how do I fix this? Before it's even happened.
It's true. Princess Bubblegum uses Finn to keep herself in check. And I think this episode did a lot to highlight. Princess Bubblegum is one of the most morally unsexy heroes in all of animation. She's pink.
She's pink! And
I forgive her.
And sometimes she's slim thick, and sometimes she wears dresses, and sometimes she wears pants.
Was that the closing statement you really thought it was?
No, but I felt confident in it while I was saying it.
So here you go, guys. Bubblegum sometimes is slim thick. Sometimes she wears dresses, and sometimes she wears pants. Number 4 for me, which is something I feel like will be in your top 10. Season 5, episode 29, Skywitch.
Raggedy Princess can make you a new Hambo in 3 seconds. Or Raggedy Princess can be your new Hambo. She'd do it too. That girl's got 0 self-respect. That's mean. Don't tell her I said that.
Here's something I have this written down.
That line is so fucking funny. And then I also think it's funny that the whole time Marceline's so obsessed with Hambo, who's very clearly not Hambo at some points. At one point the Krabbit's it's, hey Marceline, girl, it's me!
Yeah, girl, what took you so long? I thought you gave up on me.
And Bubblegum's like, bitch, what the fuck?
Marceline's reasoning is, I don't know, he's been with the witch for a while, maybe he picked up some new skills. Yeah, Marceline's a simp for Hambo.
She really is.
To be fair, it's her longest friend.
So I also thought it was funny that the Krabbit was a crow rabbit who wanted to be dancer. Fun fact, in the last episode when they're doing the recap of what everyone's doing, you can see the Krabbit dancing. So he did end up making his career as a dancer.
I'm happy for him because Maja's cruel to him.
I really love that episode. It does a lot more so than for Marceline's character for Bubblegum's, because Bubblegum, until this point, rarely did anything selfless. A lot of it, because it fits her character, is self-serving. Her canonically most important item, she gave up in a heartbeat for Marceline, which I thought was the cutest shit.
I mean, like, and reflecting back on Door Lord episode, that's the episode where she's trying to get that t-shirt back. I mean, she's doing anything to be able to get into that room to retrieve it. And when Marceline, needs her Hambo back, she's willing to give it up. So my 4 is season 3, episode 21, Marceline's Closet.
We've crossed the line. I'm getting out of here, man.
Yeah, do it!
Because they don't know what
Is, number 1, one of the best episodes. Also has the best rewatch value, in my opinion. You have, at the beginning, balloon music.
Shake your ass for me. Shake your ass for me.
Shake your ass for me. Shake your ass for me. I love Cartoon Network. They push the boundary every time. Also, we've never seen this before, Jake morphing into Finn. I think it's funny. He does it twice, and it's good every time. And then Finn got to see the van pussy. She's a vampire. He sees her pussy. It's a van pussy.
Van pussy.
Van pussy. And what my favorite scene overall, and which brings me back every time, which is when they're sneaking out, and they're just about to get out, and Finn whisper screams.
Is she awake?
Why are you talking?
I'm wondering if she's awake.
Well, now we're both quietly screaming.
I can hear both of you.
That's actually one of my honorable mentions. For the same reason you said, that last scene truly gets me when they're whispering at each other.
Yeah,
because they're just yelling at each other while Marceline's sleeping like 5 feet over after having hid in her closet the entire day.
I think it's funny every time.
So my number 3 is actually the only episode I took from an arc. Season 7, episode 10, Stake Series, episode May I Come In?
You can't come in unless I invite you in.
One thing is that the B plot is the King of Ooh hunting Crunchy, who is dressed as a furry creature. I also love how chaotic Peppermint Butler is through this. He just immediately recognizes that he can't come in unless invited. And he just starts like throwing garlic at him, like fooling around and showing his butt. He's like, you can't come in. And then eventually Hierophant just like tracks them and like knows where like the group is. But then like Peppermint Butler just starts like texting Bubblegum with emojis and stuff, which is so funny. He's like, LOL, the vampire's coming towards you, my bee.
I forgot a lot of Coo hunting Crunchy.
This is the episode where Finn is tied up and he's like,
I can't believe they just left me here. All unarmed and tethered like this.
We don't talk enough about Finn's gorgeous locks.
Gorgeous.
Truly beautiful. And him exposing his little, like, soft neck out to... Wait, what's the vampire's name again?
Hierophant. Isn't that
Hierophant.
sexy?
That's a good classic vampire name.
And it also shows that Jake, at the end of the day, despite his big fear being vampires, is willing to help his friends out. So he turns into the house so they can all go in.
I've got gallons and gallons of warm red teenage blood and you can't have it. Huh? Yeah? Yeah.
And then at the end, Crunchy kills this vampire by pushing him into the house, which is such a, like, Adventure Time ending.
Yeah, I think of the vampire arc, I don't know if it's my favorite episode. I know it's yours. I think I really like the later one with, like, the Moon Lady. There's that pun of, like...
You know, it's weird that PB wanted us to stake her back instead of us taking her back.
Wait.
But yeah, I think that it's not my favorite in the vampire arc. I think a lot of the other vampires stick out to me. But it's a classic. It's really good. And it's one that it has rewatch value, in my opinion. So 3. Season 4, episode 25, I Remember You.
I'll even split the fans with you. I get the princesses and you get whatever it is you're into. Sounds good. Yeah, I think it does.
This is higher on my list. I feel a lot of feelings towards Marceline and Simon. It makes me very emo to watch all of their episodes, and this one is no exception. I mean, every Marceline flashback episode is sad. Top tier sadness. She's crying in the whole episode. The song that he sings to Bubblegum where he's like,
I'm so alone. Won't somebody tell me what's wrong with me?
It's great. It's just a good song, and we don't talk about it enough. I think that, like, when you look at it in comparison to all the other, episodes to Simon and Marceline's relationship, It's just so sad to see how far the crown has taken him into kind of a, madness. And it's just so sad. He doesn't know who she is, and he assumes that any affection is romantic. And I think it mirrors a lot of, dementia or Alzheimer's that people feel, where you see that person for the memories you have with them. I get really sad about it, man.
My number 2 feels very out of place. Season 5, episode 33, Time Sandwich.
You're the most important part. Lobster soul.
Oh my god, this was your Jake episode.
It's just, there's so many funny parts to it for me. It starts off with him making this ridiculous sandwich, being so obsessed with it. Magic Man steals it and does a dumb riddle. But what I really love is that everyone's treating Jake like the most victimized person in the show. They're like, oh my god, I'm so sorry. I heard about your sandwich. How are you faring? BMO doesn't care about Jake's sandwich. So he does this cool, sick kickflip on a skateboard and goes into the jello, clearly going just as slowly down to the ground as Magic Man. Everyone keeps making it worse. So the Marcelin's like, oh, I have a great idea. And she just jumps into the jello, and everyone's jumping into the jello, and it's getting worse. No one's getting to the sandwich. The part that really puts this up for me is when Jake, he has to move slowly in the jello, so he keeps making himself sad by thinking about Mr. Cupcake taking a lady from him if he were to die. But that's making him angry, so instead he starts to think about fixing his relationship with Mr. Cupcake. So the whole time is him having this conversation in his head about, I wish I got to know you more, Mr. Cupcake. I try to emulate you in weird ways in my life, and I just think you're a good man. So it's him crying about how much he loves Mr. Cupcake, who's this very background character, and he manages to get to a sandwich.
Here's the thing. I remember him having to emote a certain emotion. I don't remember being sadness, and I certainly did not remember it having to do with Mr. Cupcake. That's better now that I know that. I kind of want to rewatch this episode. My number 2 is what I think relates to my number 3. Season 5, episode 29, Sky Witch.
What's that? You gonna bop me one?
It's coming in for a landing. What you gonna do, PB? Wanna keep dissing Hambo?
Everything to do with the infamous shirt. This is what reestablishes their romance for me, right? You note that, there may be something underlying there. What's going on? I don't know. But I feel like here, Bubblegum sacrificing her prized possession to make Marceline happy over a 1,000-year-old teddy bear. That, for me, is just a turning point for what the relationship will be.
It's also interesting because I think Adventure Time talks a lot about prized possessions, from what was missing to Sky Witch, because at one point, Marceline gives up Hambo again for Simon to finally see Betty. And it shows that everyone in the show has prized possessions that they are willing to give up for people they care about. And I think that's a really interesting take on people's physical belongings and how that can manifest in their feelings towards people.
There's an episode, Finn loses something or breaks something valuable to him, and Jake takes his favorite mug and breaks it and goes, I love this mug. And now it's gone forever. You're right, though. They do mention these prize valuables very often that sometimes you just lose and they're gone.
So what we're going to do now before we get to number 1, our list our honorable mentions, which we each, I believe, have 5 of.
Mm-hmm. So season 1, episode 21, Donnie.
We're not werewolves.
We're why wolves.
Season 5, episode 36, Dungeon Train.
Jake? All those years, he stayed with me.
Season 3, episode 15, No One Can Hear You.
That's my next honorable mention.
It's great.
Meant to be.
It's great. Season 6, episode 3, James 2.
What's your name?
James. James. James.
You're all named James. Is it because you guys look alike?
I guess so.
Season 6, episode 4, The Tower.
That is my next episode.
We have one mind.
Daddy's got an arm, and baby's gonna harm his arm by turning it off his dad.
Season 7, episode 4, Mama Said.
There'll be days like this, my mama said. Mama said, mama said.
Season 7, episode 23, Hall of Egress.
Egress. Egress. What's egress mean?
Exit.
So because we did have so many shared ones, I do have one more.
Yes.
I think it might be your number 1, though, so I don't want to say it.
All right.
So my number 1 is the most basic bitch choice ever. Season 3, Episode 10, What Was Missing.
I wonder what it liked, or what was missing.
I think if you were to show someone an episode to get them into Adventure Time, this does a lot because it has the goofy factor, it has the smaller plot factor to it. I love the Door Lord's voice acting, and I am obsessed with that scene where they're all talking about, oh, he was actually teaching us about friendship, and he's like, they just tied him and beat him up anyway. I think Marceline's one song often, because of its popularity, overshadows Finn's song.
What am I to you? Am I a joke, your knight or your brother?
I think Finn is just an overall cutie in this episode. I love the part where, like, Marceline's she's like, I'm just gonna get something to cook that with, and he's like,
cook?
Jake being the punk in the band the whole episode. It's the introduction, at the end of the day, of the infamous shirt. That shirt, until the bitter end of Obsidian, is one of the most relevant topics in the show, and I just absolutely love this episode. 1, because I'm a Marceline bubblegum slut. 2, I think it's a lot of great Finn moments in it. And 3, Jake's just being goofy. There's BMO, there's music, there's the power of friendship. I truly think it puts everything together in such a good Adventure Time episode.
My number 1 is Season 7, Episode 2, Varmints.
So, how long are you gonna sit out here for?
Long as it takes.
It's, again, I'm a Marceline bubblegum slut, so that's what it's about. You start off with Marceline going into Candy Kingdom, waking up what she thinks is Bubblegum, and it ends up being Koo, who's wearing Bubblegum's pajamas. He also has the line of,
technically still Candy Kingdom territory, but in my mercy, I've allowed her to remain.
Then transition to Bubblegum being a sexy farmer who's hunting vermin. Peppermint Butler just, like, being chaotic with the pumpkin carcass on his body, followed by her gun that has so many options. Battery gun, and then gun, which shoots another gun.
It's also a gun.
It's just so good. It's so stupid, and it's so fantastic. But on top of the very silly aspect of that episode, you have such a vulnerable side of Marceline and Bubblegum's relationship that can honestly, at this point, can only be talked about underground in the shadows, right? Because they're not at a point where they can be in the sunlight together. That's funny because Marceline's a vampire. But you have Bubblegum talking about why she wasn't able to confide in Marceline. She felt embarrassed and overwhelmed by what happened. And it's just, I think it's a really beautiful episode that highlights Bubblegum's vulnerability that I think she hides from a lot of people, but it feels safe to confide in Marceline.
The Candy Kingdom used to be so small, so manageable. Then it kept growing, and there was always some new disaster to prepare against.
And also that their very long relationship of them, do you remember us tagging the walls? It's just adorable, it's wholesome. Varmints is number 1 for me.
I feel so happy because I specifically didn't do my one honorable mention because I had a feeling it would be your number 1. It's a very interesting Princess Bubblegum episode because she rarely shows her negative emotions or like her sorrow or her insecurities. And I think what eventually caused her to crack and cry was she lost her hat and she saw her old tag. I think everyone knows what it's like to have a lot of emotions pent up, not express them, and then the smallest thing will set you off.
And she has so many people to take care of, and she feels responsible for this entire land that she doesn't feel like she can be vulnerable with a lot of people, that all these people depend on her. But Marceline doesn't. Marceline has no stake in Ooh, and but they've experienced so much together, and their relationship only grows stronger. But Marceline feels like the one person that Bubblegum can really just be Bonnabelle. Like, she doesn't have to be Princess Bubblegum. She can just be herself.
In a way, there's always that lingering feeling of, oh, I created these people. Of course, to some level, they're going to love me.
She's an emotional holder with these people. I mean, like, they feel like loyalty or like an owed love to her. I mean, the Banana Guard are obsessed with her. But Marceline will be real with her. She'll show it to her straight. And as we've seen in Obsidian, she'll hurt her feelings. So I feel like she knows that, like, when she says things to Marceline, that whatever it is, it'll be received with truth.
Yes. Both of them have parts of their personality that may not be super great, but I think that's really important when you're writing characters because once you start making them too perfect, it gets annoying. In, like, the, few years since the start of the series to the end of the series, despite being immortals, Bubblegum and Marceline grow way more after knowing Finn than in the hundreds of years they were just living.
Like you said, you don't see many shows where almost every character has great morality. And Finn is pretty much the main character of Adventure Time. And that boy has some issues. I mean, he does a lot of manipulating, gaslight, girl bossing behavior throughout the show. He acknowledges his bad behavior, and he grows from it. And you don't really see that too often. Usually it's the, shining knight of the show.
Which I have no problem with. If you want to create characters who are, like, overall great and they just warm your heart, that's fine. But I personally find more enjoyment in characters who have faults and talk about it. Like I said, the Dungeon Train episode I like so much because it highlights one of Finn's faults.
I feel like Bubblegum's and Marceline's faults, how they grown, really is shown in Obsidian. I know we weren't going to talk about it, but like they just seem to have so beautifully matured individually and together as the ending of the original show and the continuation into Distant Lands.
Overall, I think Adventure Time does a great job of balancing serious and silly, where you can throw on any episode and find enjoyment in it. But I think perhaps the reason both of us didn't include the last episode, despite how good it is because it's so plot relevant.
I think Adventure Time does really good with arcs. It does almost too good in the sense that like the episodes don't feel standalone. They feel very connected. The latter half of the season is really like one big, finale. That there's so much going on. Every character is involved in something that will affect the end of the show. And the last episode is fantastic. It's beautiful. BMO has his solo song, which kills. But it's not something where I would put on that 45-minute episode just to watch.
It's like the whole world's going crazy, man.